Hey guys, we'll do a quick video here. This is the Synth Doctor, and I'm just going to show you how to rebuild a CTS slider on an ARP synthesizer. This is from a Odyssey model 2823, so that's a Mark III Odyssey, but this is also the same for any of the Odysseys, any of the Omni series synthesizers, the ARP Axe, really any vintage ARP synth slider. And of course, we're also going to clean the switch here, and I'll take you through how I do that. So what I have over here is board A out of the Odyssey, and we're going to go ahead and remove the slider. We'll also clean this bender range switch too underneath. So I'm going to start by flipping the board over, adding some fresh solder, and removing it. Now here's the tricky part. So the tricky part is these tabs that you'll see down here. Now there's a little bit of a technique to getting these out, and usually I can do it without having to cut these little fingers. So basically you have a twisted tab, and then there's these little splayed ends that kind of stick out like this, and they'll catch on the board. So usually what I like to do is kind of grab it and start one side, and it is not the easiest thing in the world to do, especially on camera, because I can't put my head over here. But basically I start to twist and work it down, and as I'm doing that, you want to hold the board pretty well, and you'll keep working it. There we go. See, it'll kind of pop down, and you can push the slider tab down like that. So again, I'm going to grab the top. Okay, just kind of untwist it, bend it a little. I really have to put my head over here, guys. It's not very easy to do. Sometimes the tabs will get bent out and they'll get kind of stuck, and then unfortunately you'll have to use a pair of like flush cutters like this, and you can cut that little finger off, and then it'll be able to slide down through the board. But I really like to try to get it without doing that. There we go. So that one was actually really easy. And you should see that that slider will come straight out. Okay, so now that we did that, let's clean up the mess we left behind. Some nasty flux residue, and a little bit of damage here, but nothing major. These traces are very fragile on the ARPs, especially to heat. They will lift right off the board. They're not extremely fragile, but they're certainly more so than a lot of other single-sided boards I've worked on. So just kind of keep that in mind. Always get your legs loose and make sure that you suck all the solder out, because if you force anything, it'll come out and it won't be good. Okay, well, let's say that's good for now. Alright, then I'll go ahead and put the board out of the way, and we can clean the top because flux always likes to find its way. Okay, so let's see if I can move you in. Move you in a little. Where am I going? Over here. Okay, so we're going to do the slider over here. So, the first step, okay, is you'll notice that you have these clips. Okay, these clips, they're like little C-clips, and they hold, work with me camera, they hold the slider together on each side on the housing. There we go. They kind of pinch it together. So you'll notice that one side is open, okay? So we're gonna remove these. So with the silk screen facing you and with the slider in the back position, we're going to grab the side of the tab here, and you're just going to roll clockwise while holding the slider. You're gonna roll this clip out like that, and it'll come away from the body of the slider. And we're gonna keep that. Okay. Now you flip the slider over and you're going to do the opposite. You're going to go counterclockwise. So you can kind of see how you have to roll this clip and it'll come right out. You'll see it like opens up and kind of spreads a little. That's okay. That's how they release. So now you can put the slider body down like so. And we're going to take this piece out. Okay. And you're going to see the nasty, corroded, junky mess. This slider actually doesn't work in the lowest position, which is not good. So what we'll do is we'll lift this right out. That's the actual shaft of the slider. And then what we can do is actually grab the leg and just pull up, and you can actually remove the metal guide here that this finger grabs onto. So we have quite a few pieces we need to clean here. So I'll show you my method. The first thing I do is I get my swab. I'll come over. This is the 99.9% isopropyl, and I could see there is a ton of buildup and crap and corrosion on the very lowest position here. And unfortunately, over time, these sliders actually can wear out. So you see I'm using the back of the slider, or the back of the Q-tip, which is wood, very gently, just trying to scrape like grease buildup and corrosion, and I'll come clean it. But over time, they do wear out, and they will stop working. You'll notice that as I clean this track, I'm very gentle, and it does remove a little bit of carbon. That's just kind of how these are. So you just really want to do a couple of strokes just to get it clean. And I rotate the swab as I'm doing this. So then I'm going to come over and clean this side of this plastic here. Okay, because that's where mechanically this shaft rides in between here. And we're going to come back and do that. And then again, it rides along this bottom groove as well. So then I'll come over here and I'll do the same, cleaning this housing. Now that we've pulled the metal out of there, and again, kind of roughly just go over the guide on the right, the guide on the bottom. You can see it. Look at that. Look at the color of that. That's green, black. It's nasty. So then, this is actually supposed to be shiny metal. So I do a preemptive cleaning where I come over this first, and I'm going to show you the Synth Doctor's own little trick here. To restore these very, very well tarnished metal guides. So you actually take a pencil eraser, and I had a nice art eraser somewhere, and I don't know where it went. But what you do is you just start erasing this, and you can be as aggressive as you want, and just keep working your way down. Especially get the very bottom, because the bottom of this metal guide is where the slider rests at the extent of each position. And it really builds up a lot of gunk and crap there. So we're just gonna clean this very well. And I like to use the pencil eraser because it doesn't score or scratch. You could use maybe 4/0 steel wool, the finest of steel wools in all the land, but I prefer just to use the pencil eraser here and really just polish it. Because this all affects smoothness and the feel as far as the range of motion throughout the slider. So now what I also do in the meantime, you can get your redneck parts washer, and I'll just drop this entire finger and submerge it inside of the isopropyl, and this will start to break the grease down that is built up in there. So we're gonna let this dude hang out over here. Okay, now I like to use my favorite clean room swabs. Grab a few of these guys over here, and again I'm gonna dunk it in, And now I'll show you that these plastic guides in here and what I'm talking about. So the slider stem rides in here. So it's really important that you clean these grooves out. So we're gonna go in here. Then we'll do the bottom one. Same on this side. Because if you keep any of this crap in here, this is why your slider gets like stuck and feels extremely gritty. It's all of the buildup in material that gets trapped in here. It's like sand. This does use a lot of materials too. You're going to use quite a few swabs. Okay. Let's polish this guy up a little more. Okay, so at this point, you'll see there's 3 little tangs here, and you want to slide it in, like so. So you go in, and then you'll pull it flat back in. Perfect. So now we're going to do another cleaning. Now another part that is often very overlooked is actually the top of the slider right here. This is where the plastic shaft also rides on top of, so it rides in the groove, but it also lays down and rests on the very top of the slider, so you want to make sure that that's super clean. And you can see just doing the top here already how much crap came out. Careful not to get the IPA on the silkscreen writing on the slider body if you care, because you'll lose the value of it and everything. It'll take it right out. Oh, you can see this guy popped out. Okay. So now we're gonna go back and do another polishing with the Q-tip and the isopropyl. That sound lets you know that it's working. But you can literally see how shiny this is when it was like black and tarnished as hell before. Yeah, I mean, look at all that metal residue and corrosion coming off. Okay, so now we've cleaned that. I'm going to agitate the shaft here. And I will fetch this out with some pliers. Okay, so now we gotta start cleaning here. So you're gonna come on, you see that there's 2 wide fingers on one side of the body here. Okay, so we're gonna go in, and you can see there's some green, not very nice looking corrosion. So you're gonna polish these up, and if they're really bad, you can actually use the pencil eraser. Just rub the top of these tangs a couple of times, and it'll bring them to the nice polish. And you can come back with the IPA and make sure they're electrically clean. So we're gonna do the best we can to clean these. Okay, now you also want to clean the bottom here. There's a groove. This sits in the bottom of the slider body. So you gotta get all the dirt out of there. Okay, but then also the most important is you could see right here the channel that actually rides. Make sure we get to focus. Come on. Come on. Perfect. You can see right here there's a groove. Okay, that rides between the two halves of the slider, clamp this together. And here's that track I'm telling you about. On the bottom you gotta clean. But you really want to get inside of this channel here and get all of the dirt and buildup out. There's a lot that gets in here, and this is really what makes the slider feel like crap. It's all the grittiness. Just gonna work that through. Like I said, this does use a lot of supplies, but I really like to make sure that this is like as sterile as possible when I'm done cleaning it, because I don't want to come back and have to do it ever again. So if you do this properly, they should last a long time. And of course, sometimes this tarnish is a little difficult to get. I just broke the wooden Q-tip end off, and I'm just gonna gently score this buildup here. There we go. Alright, so after we clean this guy up here, now we have to begin the grease application and reassembly. So we're done. Just kidding. I like to break this Q-tip in half and use this pointy side here. So what I have is some my favorite stuff I like to use here, the good old silicone grease. And basically what we're gonna do is put some on my pointy skewer here, and very carefully we want to only get it to go down into the track. Don't want it to get on the carbon. If you accidentally do get some on there, you can clean it off with more isopropyl again. I'm just going to carefully work this in, and this is going to make the slider very, very smooth. And we're also going to apply a little to the bottom, because the slider also moves along here. And then you're going to do the reverse, or the mirror image job over here as well. And lastly, we're going to apply grease inside this channel of the slider here. So inside that groove I pointed out earlier, all the way around, just gonna push some silicone grease into there. Because this is the part that actually makes contact with the plastic body of the slider. And of course on the bottom as well, because it's going to slide up against the bottom of the housing. Try not to get any of this anywhere near the electrical contacts. We want to keep those just clean. You only want to grease the mechanical parts. Okay, so now that we did that, you'll see you can go one of two ways. This is only going to go back together one way. So the area where it's narrowed together, where these two prongs are very close, that goes down against the carbon. So we're gonna go ahead and place that back in. And you're gonna take your other sandwich, if you will. See if I can do this so you guys can see which way. So now you can clip the slider back together. There's sometimes some extra grease will come out, and you can just wipe that away. So I like to pinch it and then exercise the slider back and forth a few times, and you'll hear some pops. That's just the air bubbles getting pushed away from the silicone. So I work that a few times. And now we have to put the clips back on. So you'll see the clip has to go in the right way. I'll show you. You can see there's an outer tab here. Okay, see how the tab sticks out? That goes away from the slider. So what we do, okay, is we take our slider, and this clip, you're gonna put it back on the top like so. See this? This part can be done by hand. Then you're gonna rotate that back together. And then I like to invert the slider, do the same. Make sure that your tab is pointed outwards, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. And again, you're gonna place that on the top. Sometimes they can be a little stubborn. Okay, there we go. Had to do that off camera, guys. So this one a little extra greasy. Usually they're not too bad. Now we want to take a good set of channel locks, and you're going to pinch by the metal part here. So you're going to hold the slider in your hands like so. See, how can we do this? And then what you're going to do is grab the tab. I mean, I have to do mine vertically because I don't want to break it. And very carefully you're going to bend back up, closing the clip. Be very careful not to go too hard or you'll crack the plastic. Just gonna rotate that. So now you can see that I have closed the slider back up. Okay, so now you can see that I have rotated that clip back. So there it is in place. Here's what it's like before. So we have to do this other side. So on this one, you're just gonna grab like so. Grab the tab, rotate it down. Now you can get them and sometimes they're loose, but you really want to make sure you rotate it all the way. Okay. And you'll just make sure that you straighten these out. And I'll go ahead and clean the slider. Just get the excess material off. And now you'll see you have a very smooth, rebuilt CTS slider. Much better than the originals. Okay guys, the next step is cleaning these switches. Again, I like to use deoxide here. I like to use the F5 or the D5, mostly solvent, just to flush the switch out. Kind of put a rag behind here to capture, and we're just going to go ahead and blow that switch out. And then we're going to come back the other way, blow that switch out again. And then you're going to exercise the switch multiple times, and you can feel it. It frees up, and this moves super easy now. You can do the same over here with the transpose switch. Okay guys, camera died here. Just gonna finish this off. So when you're done with the slider, we're gonna go ahead, put it back on the board here. And usually you want to do this with two hands. So you're gonna carefully push the tabs. So you just push down on this side. I'm gonna rock it and push. This will actually get the slider to be nice and straight. So we flushed the switches out, both of them too. Worked them back and forth. You can see it came in here and on this guy. So now that we snapped this in, I'd like to take a minute to ensure it's level, which it is. And we'll go ahead and flip this dude over. And drop the pliers. Okay, so we're gonna come over here, grab these tabs. You're just gonna pinch them. Okay, we're gonna come over here, grab these tabs. So here's a tab, and just want to twist it, just like a 45. This is very hard to do with one hand. But you're gonna go ahead and twist. Okay. Now we double check. We're still good. Cool. We'll go ahead and solder that back in place. And you're done.